Corinthians 12. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, and I do not see, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. That there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Now you are the body of Christ, and individually, members of it. Alrighty, top of the day to you guys. Let's get right into this one. So what was that I was reading you there? So that was Corinthians 12 through 27. What I did for the sake of being able to compress it into that little music bit there was I kind of just chopped up some of the pieces. If anybody wanted to go read it, they can read it. Right? And remember, pardon the pun, but was intended. Haha. But it's funny. My daughter got me a gift for my birthday either last year or year before or something, with a bunch of dad jokes, and it was funny how many of them I'd already used with her in the past. So the reason I brought this up, so let's take a step back. So remember that my take on the Bible is in Scripture, and pretty much everything is I don't take anything literally. I look at it as parable, and find how it can relate to what it is that I intend for my life, right? And I read between the lines. So obviously in this scripture, it's not talking about the eyes coming to life and talking to each other, right? Instead, it's really showing us that everything is connected, right? And the more you are able to take a step back and look at the big picture, see the forest. You want to be able to kind of hold two simultaneous thoughts. You want to be able to see the forest and the trees, and we live in this kind of duality mindset where people think that when you embark on anything that somehow there's a line, there's a hot at the top and there's a cold at the bottom, without really considering or seeing the big picture, seeing that everything comes back around into a circle. And when you understand that, you're able to hold when you see the whole picture, right? When you see the whole circle of something, you're able to do what appears to be hold two seemingly contradictory thoughts at the same time. When in reality, you're just seeing the big picture, you're just seeing the whole of it, right? It's like if you learn to ride a bike, right? And it's the way people approach their lives with trying to figure out their way is they're trying to pick a side. Oh, I'm a left wing or I'm a right wing. Well, I mean, if you're a bird, you're a left wing, and you have a left wing, and you have a right wing, and you get 2 feet, and you get 2 eyes, and you have a head. You have a whole body. This bird is a whole body, and we're trying to divide ourselves into this really, really limited perspective, And I'm not going to dive into politics or anything specifically, but if you just kind of look at the nature of it. Someone's like, oh, I'm a right wing because I hold these beliefs. And now because they identify as the wing, and depending upon how extreme of that wing they're on, they're really, really limiting themselves to this, instead of seeing themselves as the big picture, the whole bird, they're seeing themselves as the tip of the wings. And the tip of those wings are going to be an exact inversion of the tips of the other wings. But yet both wings are required to fly. Another focus of this series here is to really get you guys to be able to zoom out and see the big picture. And interestingly, to do that, another one of those weird paradoxes, you have to go in. It's crazy. You have to go in to see the big picture. It's crazy. To see the outer circle, you have to go in, right? Jesus said the kingdom is as small as a mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. but when nurtured, will grow into a tree that will shelter the birds in heaven. It's like you get your answers from your innermost core, and it's something that is you can't see. It's the smallest of all seeds, but when you can tap into that source, that zero, which by its very nature, the 0 point that Tesla talks about a lot, is from which he believed you could have free energy. And I know this. Whether or not people are doing it doesn't mean anything to me. As far as pulling electricity out of the air, there was a lot of powers involved that didn't find that it was in their best interest to have free energy. But even if we just take it from the perspective of ourselves, anytime you have inspiration and you have new information come into your head that you didn't have before, you pulled it from somewhere, and you pull that from the 0 point. But it's really cool that when I go inwards and I ask questions, it shows me the answers that are in the outwards. And there's a reason for that too, because it's like the medium is a still body of water. That's the kind of present beliefs that you hold and things like that. And every moment, it's like a pebble drops into that water, and that pebble is inspiration or the new, right? And depending upon the body of water is how the ripples will be formed. But ultimately, when you create ripples from the water, it's two things that are participating in that. There's the medium that the pebble is dropped into, that's your present thought paradigms, and then there's the new drop that comes in. So if you get a new pebble that comes from inspiration into that still body of water, and you aren't being still, you're not in a clear-minded state or something like that, and it's tumultuous, it could be ignored, right? And you're looking at all these waves and stuff like that. And so anyways, but with that being said, you are the one responsible for the medium in which the pebble is being dropped, and you are responsible for calling the pebble to be dropped, and you are responsible for identifying that any ripples that are coming from the medium and the pebble being dropped are yours. That's your responsibility, right? And that can sound kind of harsh to some people, but whose else's responsibility do you want it to be? Right? But in order to understand your responsibility for it, you have to understand what you are. You are the I am presence that sits in between the source of literally infinite, limitless intelligence and information and power, and the creation. That creation radiates, and that your I am radiates through your thoughts and feelings, and out into your personality, out into your body, out into the actions that your body commits, and then out into your world, and then the world reacts to it. Can't be any other way. So here's one of those things where I could say something, and someone else who doesn't have the larger picture of what you are could find that the statement is contradictory to their beliefs, and in some ways they could be correct, because while your I am presence within you, your core being, is responsible for where you are. This is crazy. Your personality, being a creation and not a creator, is not responsible. And in fact, trying to use that personality and put the responsibility on the personality would actually backfire against you, because it's a creation. So if you're experiencing something in your outer world that is discordant, and you want to change it, and you try to use the personality to change it, what ends up happening is you're using, as Einstein said, the mind that created the problem to try to solve it. All right, so that's why it's so important, and why I just keep staying on this topic with you guys, and I'll continue to do it for a while, because it's really deep. It's transcending everything you ever thought about what and who you were. Some of you guys think you thought you were a composite of your past. Some of you, myself included, you thought you were the body, instead of the body being an expression of you. You thought you were the personality. You thought you were of the world. So we really have to, we're trying to, from many, many, many different angles, outmaneuver your old paradigms of thinking by using some new ways of thinking combined with some of the old patterns of thinking that you had, to crack open that old belief, so that it can know, so that even if you can't, even if you haven't fully embraced this concept of that I am presence, which is very, very, very deep, at the very least, you can start looking at what you did think and say, there are a lot of holes in this logic. This is right. Whoa, wait a second. I can't be just the body. I can't be just a personality, right? Because this I am, whatever I am, was there when I was a baby just opening my eyes. It was there when I was 5. It was there when I was 6. It was there when I was 7. And my body's changed and my personality's changed. All of these things have changed, yet I was there. So I'm already aware that I transcend time and space in ways that I didn't really consider before. And so as we continue to explore that, we will start really getting into the place where we need to in the center, where you'll realize that it's you that is responsible. The I am within you that's responsible for the reality that you're in. In fact, what the I am believes itself to be is exactly where the personality is. It couldn't be any other way. You're exactly where you're at. Everything is connected. You don't have fruit that just, there's not orchards of fruit trees where the fruit isn't connected to a tree unless it's already fallen to the ground. It's not growing just in the air. It's connected to something. And the more we can zoom out and kind of hold those two thoughts, where we can zoom out and be present at the same time, we can really start making some significant changes to our world. But it's going to begin in our minds. Like this series is not about, hey, go out, I'm going to go out and go get, you're going to listen to this series and you're going to go have a new house, and you're going to have this thing and you're going to have that thing. Seek ye first the kingdom within, and all is delivered unto you anyways. Whatever you need will be delivered, and you'll be perfectly happy with it, so long as you don't have blockages or pseudo spiritual ideas of piety and thinking that you're supposed to be poor, because if you believe that, then you're setting this limitation and stuff like that. But whatever it is, you'll have what you need, and you'll be very, very happy with it, right? So there's an interesting quote that was in Esquire magazine in 1936, published by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And here's just an excerpt from it. He says, "Before I go on with a short history, let me make a general observation. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, and often the impossible come true." And it's really cool. So Jesus said, "I'll be known by my works, not my words." So, and I think we all have to go on this experience on our own. But you'll realize that anything that you believe, there's a phrase, what you think you can, whether you think you can or you think you can't. What you believe you think you can, or what you believe you think you can't. No, oh my goodness, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And I used to hear stuff like that when I was younger and be like, hogwash, right? But what I didn't realize is that, one, I didn't understand the complexity of what my mind was, right? That my mind was something that transcended this brain. This brain is a storage device, right? That my mind sits somewhere else, and it's an unconscious, which has all the data of everything that came before me, a subconscious, something that was formed in between that and my conscious, and then I have the superconscious, which is connected to everything, right? And the more I started to understand what my mind was, the more I was able to start experimenting and dissolving old beliefs and replacing them with new, and finding that miracles are very, 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 very real, guys. Oh my goodness. I mean, miracles technically are happening every moment. Like, we just walked around for so long and never wondered, where does the next moment come from? It's a resurrection. The entire universe is rebirthing itself every moment, where it's this perfect marriage, the sacred union, the covenant between the masculine principle, which is the creator component of the new, copulating with the conscious understanding of what is possible from the past. And it's creating the moment. And you can say, wow, why aren't there miracles? I haven't seen miracles. Because you don't believe. Cause and effect are one. It's kind of crazy. So people say seeing is believing. Well, believing is seeing. so on and so forth. There's palindrome, right? There's paradox. Cool thing about paradox. So a paradox comes from the Greek para, which means to think, and dokeen, which means beyond. So it's basically means beyond thinking, which is really cool. So to get, and that's another kind of thing that's a little confusing about spirituality too. When they said don't think, and I remember I'd just be like, what do you mean don't think? It's think using your greater mind, which really works less. So if you're trying to use the lesser limited mind to think, it's the thing that created the reality that's in front of you. So it's missing data, so you need new data. So instead of really thinking, it's more of a revelation. At first, you'll ask questions and things like that, and eventually you'll get to a point where you'll go back to using the mind that you had when you were younger, when you were really, really little, and you didn't need to use words to think, which can be very limiting. You thought in revelation, you know. Just going back to the sorry, I just want to check the time. Going back to the scripture that I said at first about the body, and that in Corinthians, that can be used in so many ways, and you know, to apply it to other people that are outside of you. But really, for me personally, I like to take all scripture and just look at it from a consciousness perspective. I don't like what's going on inside of me. I know the outside's going to reflect the inside anyways, but the inside is where I have the most power. And if I change things on the inside, it automatically just changes on the outside anyways. So I like to do that with it, but you can do whatever works for you. And especially if you're presently more outward thinking, it may be helpful to use that and find outer examples and bring it in that way. But for now, we're going to focus on working from the inside out. So in the Corinthians, we saw things talking about, you know, for the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, I'll read you some more, but if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? Was that as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greatest honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not require. Right? If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Now you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. Right? And so here's another thing about where orthodoxy, in my humble opinion, kind of corrupted things, is it has people, I mean, they literally have people doing a pagan ritual on communion. Eating the flesh and drinking the blood of their Savior. You know, it's to me, Jesus said, for he who looks upon the world, this is in the Gospel of Thomas, he said, for he who looks upon the world and sees a body, for him the world is not worthy. Right? And that's the ultimate goal here, is to recognize that at your center, your I am is the thing that's responsible for your experience in the world right now. This I am transcends time and space. This I am, as far as you are aware of now, exists on this plane, but even on this plane has existed through your entire life. So every moment it was there. Right? Chop wood and I am there. Lift a stone and I am there. Right? That I am has been with you this whole time. And that I am that you believe you are is mirrored back to you in the relationships and the experiences that you have in your world. And it really couldn't be any other way. So let's look at your body. Right? So your body, if we zoom out, we just look at the body, it's a body. Right? And then we start to zoom in a little bit more, and we actually start, and this is what science does, right? So what we start to do to explore the body is we start to divide, and we actually start to separate. This is this because it is not that, and this is this because it is not that. Right? Or that is this because it is not this, or whatever. And so then you could say, all right, well, you have skin, and then you have muscle, and you have blood, and really, whenever we're identifying things, we usually more or less define it in the same context you could define your personality, which would be its responsibility, what it can do, what it does, its values, what it needs, and its overall intention. That's pretty much it, and that's how we divide things and we personify them, right? So you have your skin. We say what it does, what it's capable of doing, what it needs, what it doesn't need, its value systems, and what its goal is, right? And then you have muscles, and you have all of this, right? But then if you zoom in even more, now you start seeing cells, and actually the good majority of the body is actually not even human cells. It's viruses and bacteria, fungus and yeast, things like that, which is really remarkable, right? And depending on who you speak to, somewhere between 30 and 50 trillion living organisms in your body. And here's what's really amazing. They're conscious. There's a consciousness associated with all the way down to these single-celled organisms. An awareness, a drive, purpose, a reaction, an intention, an action, and a reaction. And we're going to talk about intention, action, reaction later when we talk about some really cool stuff in the next few episodes. So when you're a baby and you're learning to move your hands, what do you have to do to move your hand first? So and you're not thinking in words. You're not like, all right, so I got this hand here. I'm going to move my hand. I wiggle in my fingers. You don't even know what fingers are or hand is. And these babies are making those crazy faces. They're actually doing some pretty massive things in regards to the use of intelligence. They're sending out thoughts, frequencies, and they're basically desiring, being receptive. So they're sending out an intention, more or less, and they're observing, which is their action, and then they're reacting to what they observe. So they're sending out frequencies of thought, feeling, frequencies, observing its effect on their outer world, and interpreting the degree of responsibility they have. So if they send out a thought frequency and they see something happen in that outer world, before they recognize or recognize that the hand is theirs, they're learning that the hand responds to them, that they're responsible for that hand. So they send out the thought frequencies and something moves. And then they do it again and that same thing moves, albeit maybe a little bit different. So then they send out another thought frequency and it moves a little bit different. And another one. I mean, this is massive. And you can do this as an adult, but you have to crack open the contracted belief paradigms you've wrapped around yourself and your identification of yourself. We've over limited ourselves in our understanding, and so we're trying to think our way using these words that are built upon duality and contrast to try to solve problems that could be solved so much easier if we just take a couple steps back into our core being to solve them. But anyway, so that's what the baby's doing. And so what needs to happen? So the baby has an intention, and then it observes, and then it interprets or reacts. It has an intention, action, reaction, intention, action, reaction, intention, action, reaction. It's like it's programming, and it's realizing, wow, I have a union with this hand. I am responsible for this hand. What I think and what I feel, what I intend, directly impacts what this hand does. Then it does it with the rest of its body. When Jesus said, "For he who looks upon the world and sees a body, for him the world is not worthy." A question that I'll pose to you guys, instead of pushing this too far, and we're kind of running short on the episode, I'll dive more on this later. What if Your whole world was like that. Because so if you zoom in on the body, you see cells, right? And they're all individually conscious, right? They're conscious of being cells. They're conscious of being yeast. They're conscious of being fungus. But you would agree that you, to the degree that you feel responsible for your body, have the power to significantly influence the well-being of those organisms, even though they're conscious, because you are aware of being and to the degree that you are aware of being the master of that body directly correlates to the responsibility that you have, the ability to respond for that body. So for myself, I haven't been sick in a long time, and I don't get sick at all anymore, because I just it's my beliefs. I understand things, and I won't get sick again. People say that's crazy. How's that possible? I mean, one, I don't believe that it would have been possible if I still thought I was a personality. But I have enough understanding, and I hope to share that with others. So I want you to if you ever wonder about like, oh, how power, like I say, oh, we're powerful. And people say, well, I mean, I don't know if I'm that powerful. You know, if I was powerful, why am I not flying around? Or, you know, why don't I have $1 billion in my pocket? What if you're so powerful you chose this limited experience just to have fun, right? It's like people who play a video game. They play a video game that's challenging. They're sitting on their couch playing it. They're not there in the game. They want it to be challenging. They want limitations. They want something to overcome, right? What if you're so powerful that you've chosen that? Right? So let's go back to the body. So, and then what's really cool is if you dive more into the body, you find out that there are atoms. And I have some theories on that the atom may not actually be a particle, but it's actually just it's like you always see the picture of the atom as if it's like matter itself. But I have a feeling that it's like a field of invisible energy, right? But regardless, when you get all the way into, so this is kind of cool. This is the circle back around. So when I first look at a body, the body is one. I see the body as one thing. And then I start to divide and separate and say, this is skin, this is muscle, this is tissue, this is this. And then I dive even more, and then I say, and this tissue is comprised of these cells. And these cells are comprised of these ingredients. And these are comprised of this, and these are comprised of this. And if I keep going, I end up back where I started, and it's all made of the same stuff. So I start off, I say this body is one thing, I dive in, I divide, and then when I get to the bottom of it, and I come full circle, and it's all made of the same stuff. Right? But for the sake of this reality, they all have different roles and different parts that they're doing, and ultimately you're the master of it. And so where we're going with this is, I want you to start thinking about, what if this is an experience for you to be able to start treating your outer world as you did your body. Start paying attention to the thoughts that you're holding, the reactions that you're feeling, the interpretations that you're having, and pay attention to your outer world. And see, and test it. Take someone that you used to think negatively about and think positively about them. Don't do any of this because you're expecting anybody to do anything. Just do it internally. Right? Just do it internally. Just start changing your interpretations, changing your perspectives. Well, actually, it depends on where you're at. That can be kind of daunting. I don't know. I have a feeling that anybody who's drawn to this series has already been doing that anyway. So, yeah. So if you've already been diving in and paying a lot of attention to your thoughts, remember the thing seeing it is eyeballs can't see themselves. They can only see an inverted, projected, lower dimensional reflection of themselves. The thing doing the seeing cannot be seen. If you can hear a thought, if you can see a thought, you are not it. But it is an expression of you, so it is a part of you. So your body is a part of you, it's an expression of you, but you are not it. Or definitely not all of it, right? So start paying attention to the thoughts. Put some space in between you and them. You can still have a relationship with them and have some space. And by space, I mean not repressing them or anything like that, but just looking at them as noise. So I did, I'll finish with this. So as we're going through our awareness growth phases and stuff like that, we're going to start getting a lot more practical. We you'll notice that you'll have what some people call them trials. Some people say you're being tested by the universe, things like that. Both of those sound very limiting to me. I like to look at it from the mindset that the being that I am at my core created all of this experience, every single drop of it, and this is the best experience that I could choose, or else the I am within me wouldn't be here. I'm choosing to be here because I want to. I have all this focus from whatever plane I'm on to be here because I want to. Nothing happens to me. It happens because of me. And the only reason I ever do anything is because I want the experience, right? And so instead of looking at it as a trial or a test, I see them as initiations. And again, this is kind of holding two thoughts, right? So the I am that I am can't be taken from our attitude. It's eternal and it's infinite. But I also have this character that I'm experiencing life through that is very important to me, and I love it. And I want to have the best life through it. And so part of this story for me is this journey. They call it the hero's journey. Read about the hero's journey, and it's kind of what your quote unquote awakening is like, right? But they're initiations, and they come to you, and it will feel like when you're going on your journey of self-improvement, all of a sudden things start happening outside of you, and it seems so when you go through your spiritual awakening, you start getting really good times. You get these moments of clarity. You literally feel like you're on top of the world and you have everything under control. And then boom, this thing jumps into your world, and it's scary and painful, and you don't understand why. God, why have you forsaken me? Kind of thing, right? And what's happening there is it's an upheaval. You're bringing up a pattern that's been there the whole time. And the reason you're bringing it up now is to see if the new wisdom that you have acquired, new understanding you've acquired, is powerful enough for you to overcome the experience and reprogram yourself. And the interesting thing is the reason, and it's funny because the things that will come up will seem like in the book of Job, he said, "For all my greatest fears came true." It's usually something that you have been repressing, running from, projecting onto the world to escape from for a very long time. And it finally seems like it hits you like a train. And you're like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And I promise you, it's not happening to you. It's happening so that you can use your new wisdom and apply it and overcome it. And when you, sometimes you may get a couple of initiations throughout the process. And if you don't know what's going on and you go into an old habit of trying to run from it, you may get away from it, but it's just going to wait. It just means you weren't ready, and then it'll come back. Right. The best thing you can do, actually, I'll have to do a whole episode on that. But those initiations, when you overcome them, you become stronger. And I'll just give you an example of mine. So when I was younger, I used to I was always small framed, and I used to think I had a bad back because I got hurt when I was younger. So I just had this belief that I had this bad back. But in the other end of that, I was also really strong. But I would and so I would push myself to do like CrossFit and these obstacle courses, things like that. And I would injure myself all the time. And nothing really, really very severe injuries, but pull my back and barely be able to move around for a few days, things like that. And since I've gone on this path for my own, over the past 4 years, I've really gotten to a point where I'm in my mid 40s and I don't feel any pain in my body. I feel like I'm in the body of a 20-year-old. So I've really been able to master a lot of these things. And it was interesting that I tweaked my back a little bit a few months ago. And I remember I was kind of surprised. I was like, wait a second, if I'm the master of this body, why is this happening? And then I started to doubt some of the other, I don't know, my computer's made a weird noise. I started to doubt a lot of the work that I had done. Like fear crept in. And we'll talk about this in future episodes about kind of how you overcome them. So I had to find out where the pattern was and apply new information to that pattern. And my back, the last time I tweaked it, healed way, way faster than it ever had before. So I was like, all right, I got to figure it out. So then I go to this Tough Mudder race. It's like an obstacle course. You climb things, you jump on things. And I had someone who was about double my weight was climbing over, and they were not in the quote unquote best shape, right? They wanted to get over this 12-foot wall, and I offered to give them the 10-finger kind of, you clasp your hands together and you help lift them over. And there was another person on top of it, and people in this Tough Mudder thing, they help each other and stuff. So I assumed that that the person up there was going to help the person that I just lifted up, because it was a lot of work to get them to that point. They were, I basically kind of threw them over the thing, which was already putting some pressure on my back. And then I thought the other person had them, and I went to walk away, and I turned. And as I was twisting my body, they fell and caught themselves by thrusting their foot, all 250 pounds, 260 pounds, onto my shoulder while I was turning. And they basically fell on me, and but as they pushed down, they were able to propel themselves onto the thing to save themselves. And it was a really substantial impact. And as soon as it happened, I felt like electrical courses right through my back. And we were it was just a 10K, but it was on a mountain. So you basically run up the mountain, which is really steep, and you run down, up, down, up, down. It's a lot of fun. However, as soon as that happened, I've done that to my back. I've had that happen to my back before, and it was days of recovery. And we were at the mile marker, and I was like, oh, bummer. What a bummer. That I'm going to try to finish it. Instead of doing the 10K, you can do there's a 5K, 10K, and a 15K. And I was like, well, I'll just walk the 5. I'll just walk it, and I probably won't be able to do the obstacles. And then and as I was walking, I was like, wait a second. You've been able to help other people heal and do all these crazy things. You've healed yourself. You don't get sick. What are you thinking? And I was even, as I was walking, I was like, maybe I'll have to call out of work or something for a day or two, just to let the body heal. And then I realized, I saw the old pattern, and I was like, whoa. And I was like, okay, so what was the pattern? Now, the first thing that one way I tried to deal with the pattern in the past was resisting. And so I knew that I've already done the resisting thing. When you resist, it persists. That's not the answer. Right? And feeding it was another thing that I had done. So I either resisted it or fed it. And I did something that I've done it multiple times in other areas, and I don't have time to talk about it now. I'll just do it on the next episode, where you accept it. It's a crazy, crazy thing to try to explain until people have done it. But it was like, I'm going to do this race, and I'm going to be fine. And I accept whatever the body wants to say to me. And I've done it with a whole bunch of other things. I'll do a whole episode on it. When you do that, you say, I'm not afraid of these feelings, and you shut down that weaker, limited, some people call it egoic mind of fear. So you don't resist it, but you don't pay attention to it. Because when you're resisting something, you're paying attention to it. When you're feeding something, you're paying attention to it. It's kind of like with my daughter when she was little. Sometimes she'd throw tantrums when she was like a little, 3. And never really bothered me. I'd just be like, you can cry all you want. Go ahead. I'm not saying if she was hurt or anything, but if she was just throwing a tantrum about something. I'd say, you can do that all you want. You're wasting your time. And I would talk to her very matter-of-factly. So you're crying, I would give her the thing, and then I would just ignore it. So you cry. And then after she would cry, I would kind of talk to her and be like, that's futile to do that. You're only just throwing yourself around or yelling for no reason. It's not doing anything for you. And eventually she just realized it was the easiest. I was really lucky. I am really lucky with her. I mean, she's now an adult, but yeah, one of the big things that I always did with her is I always told her why. Anyways, so I digress. So the next episode, I'm going to cover facing patterns of initiation and kind of what that feels like. But I can show some perspectives of it so that you can have that kind of insight. But ultimately, it's something that will make a lot more sense once you start applying it. All right, guys, it's been real. I'll see you next time.